Hey everybody, like. Come on. Hey. No, I know I'm running a little late today, but I thank you for coming in. I thank you for coming in. We're talking about what's happened in Minneapolis. And so, oh boy, what's happening all around the country. Domestic terrorists. That is what everybody, I don't care what your party affiliation is, what we're going to be labeled. So think about that, everybody. Think about it. You've got that coming from the president, vice president, and the Department of Homeland Security, and every place. Think about that. We're coming up in 15 seconds. Hey. Like and share, and whew, like and share in five. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you. Tough moment as we think of the family of RENEE Good and her wife, Rebecca Good, and their three children, and her mother, and this whole family. Indeed, we're all Minnesotans now in many respects, just like the George Floyd tape shook us to our foundations, these varying taped images of the killing, the assassination, if you will, of RENEE Good have shaken us to our core. We need to talk about that because this is not new, everybody. And there's some people who I had to call when this happened because it was just so stunning. But I said, I know what's past is prologue. This has happened before, or certainly echoes of it. So we talked with Colleen Rowley, the FBI whistleblower, yesterday. She helped to give us a frame for the fight between the state and the federal law enforcement agencies. Who's going to investigate it? Who should investigate, and what is at stake if the investigation does not go through, if the FBI just seizes all of the information and refuses to share anything with the state authorities in Minnesota. But so many video images are out there now. So let's talk about that. But let's look at the politics of this. Indeed, we have been talking with this gentleman. He has been Fred Hampton's lawyer. See, you know how the president and the vice president and the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, as soon as this happened, it was almost immediate. They labeled RENEE Good a domestic terrorist. They said that the ICE agent was not at fault. They said that she was at fault and that she rammed him with the car. She weaponized her car. And when we saw the video, we said, oh, no, that's not true. Well, the same thing happened with Fred Hampton. We were told that it was a shootout between these violent Panthers and these law abiding Chicago police officers. And we found out that was not true. And we found out it was not true because a brilliant lawyer, a man of principle, went to the apartment before they could tamper with it. And he saw that all of the bullets went into that building, maybe save one or two. They killed the bodyguard almost immediately, Mark Clark. So what is going on here? Hey, Dave Downley up there in Canada, and Robert Williams, shalom to you, my dear brother. Everybody like and share, thumbs up, thumbs up. Meet me on StreamYard here, but meet me on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, on YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, on X at Santita J, or the Santita Jackson Show, or Santita Jackson IG. That's right. And I'm moving into TikTok too. Watch me. And I'm on Blue Sky, Santita Jackson .bsky.social. Hey, everybody. You've heard me talk about this book, The Torture Machine, that really helped us to understand Chicago and our relationship with the police. Well, now he has a new book that's coming out, The Conviction Machine. Prosecutors. That's right. Prosecutors, politicians, and police violence in Chicago. What do they say about New York? Well, they say this about show business. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. But if you can make it in politics here, Attorney G. Flint Taylor, you can make it anywhere. This is really the mother lode when it comes to politics. Tell me, before we get into this story, because it seems like this this book is prescient. It's like a forerunner to what we're seeing right now, because we are watching really the torture of a woman. It was an assassination, it was a killing. Um, and she said, now it comes out from one of the other video images, that she said to the ICE agent, "I'm not mad at you." Wow. This is a 37-year-old woman who had a 15-year-old child, a 12-year-old child, and a 6-year-old. And her partner was in the seat next to her, and she blames herself. God bless her. She says, she was only out there because I told her we needed to go. Not that they were not involved, because they were. But oh my goodness, what her wife Rebecca Good is carrying. We pray for that whole family today. But what about the prosecutors? What about the politicians? What about police violence? What about it? What is this book about? Because you take us back to 1969 and the Fred Hampton assassination, which was not framed as an assassination initially, right? Because, presidents are assassinated, not gang leaders, even though in the community, Fred Hampton was beloved. He was seen as someone who was really pulling a rainbow coalition together, right? So, what is this book about? And how can this relate to what we're looking at today?
Well, I first want to say, being on in Minnesota, being on in Minneapolis, I want to send my condolences and my strength and support to everybody up there, certainly to the family, but to all those folks who, despite this, as you called it, quite correctly, an assassination, a murder, are out in the streets now, as they got out in the streets around the George Floyd murder or assassination. And people have to continue to do that and only gather more strength behind these atrocities that are being perpetrated. I would say not in our name, but in the name of this country. And it's remarkable in one sense, but as you say, it has a history to it. It has a history to it that goes back to when you and I first got involved in this, and you're younger than me, but we both got involved a good time ago, and we have seen over generations the kind of racism and the kind of police violence, and now we're seeing it translated or transmuted, or however the term is, to the feds, and particularly to the immigration agents. And we're seeing the same kinds of law enforcement brutality and violence, assassinations, murders, as we've seen primarily from police departments in the past. And that's what I've written about in these two books, is about police departments involved in assassination, in torture, in cover-up, in wrongful prosecutions and convictions. And now we see that Trump and his people, Kristi Noem and the people from the Department of Homeland Security, have taken police violence, have taken law enforcement violence, have taken law enforcement lies and cover-up, and it's on steroids now. It's just beyond what we thought couldn't be worse in terms of what we've seen down through the decades in terms of law enforcement violence and wrongful prosecutions. But here we are. So yes, there's a straight line, and maybe it curves a little bit from time to time, from the police department to the feds. I mean, of course, the FBI was deeply involved in the assassination of Fred Hampton back in the late 60s, the Black Panther leader that you spoke of.
But hold on, because it was a coordination between the federal government and Chicago county government, right?
Exactly.
I mean, because we're seeing this, I'm only bringing that up because it seems like we're seeing this fight right now between the federal government, not coordination, they were coordinated, but we're seeing a fight between the federal government and the state government now with respect to the investigation of this killing, this assassination of this young woman.
Yes, that's true. And I mean, in Chicago, we saw a tension between the local and state governments and the feds, and a resistance that came from the grassroots, but also was joined in by the mayor here and joined in by the governor here. And it looks like the same thing in Minneapolis, where the governor of the state and the mayor have spoken out and told ICE to get the hell out of Minneapolis and out of their state. But I guess that what we're going to have to see is are the state prosecutors going to prosecute some of these shooters? Are they going to actually take on the federal government and attempt to bring some form of justice to those who just so blatantly kill on video and so blatantly beat and throw tear gas grenades at people who are praying or people who are just demonstrating? Because at this time, I think it's very important, not only for public officials, state officials, local officials to speak out and to do whatever they can, but prosecutors have to step up and they have to make it clear that feds don't have complete impunity and immunity when it comes to killing and brutalizing our people.
What did you learn in the Hampton case about the power of federal law enforcement, the power of local law enforcement? What did you learn about them? Are they supposed to balance each other? What happens when they coordinate with each other? Are there ever any conflicts with one another?
Well, I think those conflicts, and of course, there's always rivalries between local police and FBI and federal agents. They are minimized when, in fact, they have a goal, a shared goal. And back in the 60s and 70s, that shared goal was basically to neutralize and destroy the Black liberation movement, to neutralize and destroy coalitions between Black and white groups, progressive groups. And that was what we saw and learned in the Hampton case, that there was this COINTELPRO program, of course, that was Hoover's program that was very secret, very illegal. And part of what they did was work with local law enforcement to reach the aims that they were striving for. And in Chicago, the aims were to destroy the Black Panther Party and its very important young leader, Fred Hampton. And they were successful in that, but they were not successful in covering it up. And over the decades, we were able to bring out the evidence that showed that this was a conspiracy between the federal government and the state government. So at that particular part or time in history, there was complete coordination between local and state and federal, particularly the FBI and to some degree the CIA officials. But here, as you pointed out, there appears to be, at least to some degree, a tension, a political tension. And that political tension in the blue states, as we see in Chicago, as we've seen in LA, as we see in Minneapolis, and which we will see if he dares to come to New York. That political tension is different. I mean, that takes us, it's kind of like the reverse of what happened during Reconstruction in a way, and during, that led up to the Civil War as well, where states' rights meant the racism, it meant slavery. And the federal government, at least for a time, was the enforcer of the Constitution, was the enforcer of civil rights as during the early stages of Reconstruction and before. But here it's the opposite, right? We have an authoritarian, dare I say, fascist leader. And as you pointed out, Vice President and Kristi Noem and her brown shirted. That's very appropriate. She appears in brown shirted with a brown hat. Just it would be totally ridiculous if it weren't so serious. And it's there's that tension, as I mentioned, and how strongly the state and local officials will be able to resist is really an important aspect of this. What we're really engaged in here is a struggle, a war against encroaching fascism in this country. And if we don't resist it, then we're going to end up, God, who knows? You know, I'm not going to say it, but we all can project. We have historical precedents to unfortunately turn to.
When you saw this, when you saw the video of the killing, of the assassination of Renee Good, what did you think?
Well, you know, it's okay. I've been doing this for like how many years? Almost 60 years.
Yeah.
I mean, my baptism to this was standing in the blood of Fred Hampton, as you mentioned, on December 4th. Assassination, bullet holes. And over the next 50 or 60 years, I've dealt with police torture. I've dealt with all sorts of police killings and beatings and scenarios that aren't, unfortunately, too much different than what happened to her. But to see it on video in such a clear-cut way where you could slow it down and you could just prove without a shadow of a doubt the lie that the highest powers in this country were spinning at us. That, to me, even given all my experience, given all of the cases that I've seen and all the horrible law enforcement actions, it really struck me. It really struck me. And um, that's all I can say. That
But it struck you as what? It struck you how? I
well,
mean, were you, because you've seen a lot. I mean, because let's go, if we can just jump back to 1969, many people don't remember. We see the J. Edgar Hoover that many of us know is not the J. Edgar Hoover you knew. He was one of the most respected Americans in the country, right? You even had the FBI television show, The Untouchables. uh,
well, we have one now
franchise.
again.
I mean, the FBI television show, that was something everybody watched, and they were the most upright people in the world. Now, people in the civil rights movement had a very different experience in real time, but I think that people have romanticized that period, Attorney Taylor, because people don't realize that people like you and your colleagues, well, we're all in the same family. That we were the outsiders. I went to school with wonderful people, but had people who ask, "Well, what does your father really do? Does he have a job?" you know, that sort of thing. So when you look at when you, I mean, you mentioned that at the highest levels of elective office, the highest levels of governmental power, Renee Good is being attacked. She's being assailed. She's a domestic terrorist. What does that mean? What does that say about everybody else who would dare to speak out? I mean, on the Republican and Democratic side, you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey as Republicans, right? Um, who are speaking out on some real third rail issues. But what does that mean when you see the vice president in the middle of the press conference came out to absolutely assail her? What did that say?
It's just it's maddening. It brings it's enraging. It's just the crime itself that was committed was terrible, but it was not unprecedented as we've been discussing. That it has we've seen this kind of law enforcement activity down through the ages, predominantly against black and brown people, but it doesn't stop there, obviously, and it didn't stop there here. And now it's a war on anybody who protests. And she may not have even been there to protest, but it's anyone who raises a voice, who attempts to uncover and reveal and resist what's happening in this country from the highest levels. It's all coming from Trump, but it is all endorsed by, as you say, Vance and almost all of the Republicans in Congress. And it's not just happening in Minneapolis or Chicago. It's happening in Venezuela, and let's blow up a few boats. Let's blow up a few fishing boats, kill a few people, and claim that they're, like you said, she's a domestic terrorist. They're terrorists. They're what do they call them? Drug terrorists or whatever.
Narco terrorists. Right.
Yes. Just call them. Label them whatever you want to label them, in terms of that gives you some, reason in your own warped mind to attack them. And if she's a domestic terrorist, God damn it, we all are, aren't we?
Yeah.
We all are. And your next door neighbor who came out with a whistle when they were terrorizing construction workers and domestic workers and everyone else in this city who had brown skin. And this city, like LA, said no. And all those people, I guess, are domestic terrorists as well. And particularly if they gas you or beat you or shoot you, then you're sure enough a domestic terrorist, because how else are you going to attempt to justify it? But it's so, you asked me what I thought about seeing the video, and like you say, there's so many different levels to it. And you pointed out to me yesterday, not only does the video show that they had no reason to shoot her and that she was in all likelihood trying to avoid them, and had turned past this guy who fired 3 shots, deadly shots. But after they killed her, they just walked around as if, let's go to the corner store and buy some chewing gum. And if the man who came out, who was a physician, and said, can I help? They told him no.
First he said, I don't care.
Yes, I don't care. And then didn't let him look at her. And it reminds me of cases, Santita, where you hear people say that Reed case here in Chicago, where they shot this young man after he was clearly unarmed, laying on the ground after he'd been shot. They shot him again, and then they left him there. It's almost like a trophy. They left him there to die, and they didn't even really bother to bring him any medical care. And that kind of the callousness of the shooting is only redoubled by how they act after they kill the person. And this is just, this masked, brown-shirted, white guy pulling out his gun and shooting this woman. That, we could put so many names, can't we, in that truck? Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Fred Hampton, Sandra Bland. You just go down the list of people that we could put in that truck or in that SUV, and deja vu repeating itself again. But hopefully that people will en masse understand really what happened here and hopefully do something about it.
Well, I'd even put Viola Liuzzo and Reverend James Reeb in that.
Yes,
You know,
definitely. Yes.
what did we see? I think many of us are still trying to process it. I've just bumped into an article from the New Republic. The headline is "Damning You Video Wrecks Trump Team's Claims on Minnesota ICE Shooting." It begins, a new video shows the minutes leading up to the killing of Renee Good by a federal immigration officer from a new angle and further cast doubt on the Trump administration's smears. The video obtained by CNN goes as follows. One person appeared to exit Good's car before she pulled out onto the road perpendicularly. The new footage showed that Good wasn't fully blocking the street, as cars were able to pass her on either side. The new video appears to show that ICE arrived suddenly and aggressively, and that Good was not actually blocking their path at all. Initial footage of the incident, shot from another angle, showed Good wave at the agents and urged them to go around her vehicle. Instead, the ICE agents swarmed her vehicle, pulling on the doors and demanding she get out the effing car. One witness even said that another officer ordered her to leave. Conflicting directions. When Good attempted to drive away from the group of officers, one officer standing near the front of the vehicle shot her at least 3 times, and I must tell you, everybody, was in the face. Still, Vice President J.D. Vance claimed Thursday that Good was a, quote, deranged leftist, close quote, was, quote, part of a broader left-wing network, close quote, and then open quote, was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation, close quote. And they have labeled her, for a good portion, a domestic terrorist. And apparently she said to, I saw another CNN report just an hour ago, in which they caught her on tape saying to the ICE agents, I'm not mad at you.
Well, here we are in Chicago. And the first week that ICE showed up in Chicago, they shot and killed a man, a Mexican-American man in Broadview, who was trying to drive away from them. And so they jumped onto the running board of his car and then shot him and killed him. And at first they told the lie that he had seriously injured this ICE agent, but then later video came out where he was laughing it off, didn't go to I'm okay, basically. Then a few weeks later, a woman in an SUV, I think her name was Martinez, there was some kind of situation with her vehicle. They shot her 5 times. And they charged her with attacking them with a deadly weapon, i.e. her car. And of course, she survived, luckily, and even Trump's prosecutors had to dismiss the case. Back in the day, the Chicago Police Department had a stooge by the name of Camden, who when they cops killed somebody, they'd send him out, do a press conference, tell whatever lie the cops told them, and that's the way they deal with it. Now, Trump and Vance are doing the same thing, but the difference is there are videos. It's not like it's us as lawyers looking at it and saying this couldn't have happened the way they're saying that it happened. It's videos, and the videos just make the lie apparent. And how many times is this going to happen before someone steps in? That the people are protesting. Where are our prosecutors? Where are our politicians who can, in Washington, who can do something about this, and rather just okey-dokeying it?
Well, help me to understand, because I want to connect this to your book, because we are now looking at the torture machine. Would you put this, what happened to her, would you classify it as torture?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, the torture machine focused specifically on John Burge and his detectives in Chicago, and they brought to this country the torture tactics that were used in Vietnam. And those were specific torture tactics, electric shock. He had a box that had a generator that from which he shocked people. They suffocated people, what they call dry submarino. They did Russian roulette. They did mock executions, putting guns in people's heads and clicking the trigger and all of that kind of stuff.
And he shocked genitals, right?
Yeah, that as well.
Of men and boys.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's not torture, but it's murder. You know, I mean, assassination is kind of a term of art, right? Assassination kind of means that that the powers that be targeted a certain person because of their politics, and specifically assassinated that person. So you might not technically call this an assassination, but you can call it a murder. And there's really little difference, right, in terms of the crime that was committed. And that's what it has to be called here, because this is official murder, just like it was official murder of Fred Hampton. And only later we were able to show that it was an assassination as well, because of who he was and who was behind his murder. But the bottom line crime here is murder.
What is murder? So that we can all be on the same page with it as a definition. With the definition of murder, shall I say?
Yeah, well, I won't open the law books to give it to you, but basically, murder is killing somebody without justification, having the intent to either kill or to do great bodily harm to someone. And there's no justification here, and he clearly had he shot her 3 times. I haven't seen the autopsy, but I believe she was shot in the head.
In the face.
Yeah, in the face. You know that, and he's a trained law enforcement officer, right?
10 years.
Yeah, so he's not, you or me that has a gun and it accidentally discharges. He pointed that gun. He pointed it at her head. He knew that there was no justification. He pulled the trigger not once, not twice, but 3 times as that car turned away from him. He was not hit. He was not in danger of being hit. That, in my book, is murder. And he should be charged with murder.
If you were making the case in court, I mean, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, what do you make of shooting her 3 times? I mean, and he ran around to shoot her. I mean, he followed her to shoot her. He didn't shoot out her tires. He didn't shoot out the back of her back windows. He didn't do any of that. He shot her in the face. What was? What would you do in court with that?
Well, obviously, the first thing I do is show the video from every different direction, and have it broken down as it's been on some of the websites. But kind of, as I said, and as you repeated, he shot her 3 times. He didn't give her a warning. He didn't say either stop the truck or the SUV. Gave her no warning. And it speaks for itself, I think. It speaks for itself. And I hope that he's charged.
What do you make of what signals do you think are being sent from the president? I mean, at the highest levels of our government, Renee Good is being attacked, and a whole class of demonstrators are being labeled domestic terrorists. Now the vice president has said, "I can go. We can now go from door to door." They deployed more than 2,000 ICE agents into Minneapolis alone, and two ICE agents shot two persons in Portland just yesterday, um, the day after. So, so what do you make of this?
It's it's
I mean, what is being telegraphed here? Because in 1969, the political establishment, did they justify the killing of Fred Hampton initially, the first iteration of the story?
Oh, definitely. They told a false story. They said it was a shootout. They said that the vicious Black Panthers had fired numerous shots at the police, and but for the grace of God, none of them were injured or killed. Um, and they tried to perpetrate that lie, and they might have gotten away with it if they had closed off the apartment so that people, including us, were not able to go in and to show the world what that apartment. In that sense, the apartment was the video. The apartment was what showed what really happened. Um, and 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 the kind of lies that Vance and Trump and Nome are perpetrating in this case, uh, at least there's this video that exposes them right from the jump as liars, as master liars. But on the other hand, what you're talking about in terms of going door to door, and I think that just a couple of months ago they announced basically they were categorizing just almost everybody that had ever been involved in any kind of activity, writers, demonstrators, politicians, on this list of domestic terrorists, of people that just a total. And I think you had a show about this actually a month or two ago, and um, they're totally out of control. They're just totally out of control, and but I think people, you have to be careful. But it's important not to be totally scared by these people, because that's what they want. They want to completely cow the populace, the people that they can't get from Fox News and what's he called, the Truth Social, or whatever, you know that they lies where they put all those lies. They hope they can neutralize by making them feel like there's nothing that they can do to stop what's going on here.
So what do we make of Jonathan Ross? And he's the ICE agent who shot and killed uh, Renee Good. What he was filming this. What do you make of that? I mean, everybody else has video, and so does he. What,
Yeah.
what,
Um, I don't know what he thought he was videoing that would be helpful to him, but a lot of this is performance. If you remember, uh, here in Chicago, often they'd call the press, and Bovino and Nome would have press conferences. And there was one situation where they arrested, well, wrongfully arrested 8 demonstrators, lined them up behind Nome and Bovino, had a press conference. She has a little YouTuber that goes along and makes videos for her. They YouTube this arrest. Here's what we're doing. They
Mhm.
then took those people and threw them in at least some of them, rather than taking them, to be processed, as you would expect someone arrested would be. They drove them around Evanston and Rogers Park for hours and hours, and then took them to a gas station and released them. So they were just props. They were props for this YouTube video about, well, look at what we're doing. We're arresting these crazy demonstrators, but they had nothing on them. And so they later, after just driving them around and then further intimidating them, they let them go. That might be part of what he was doing. He might have, or who knows, maybe he's callous enough that he's got family. Hey, look, I'm out here, look at me. I'm a big ICE agent. I'll send some of this video to my wife or, whomever. I don't know what goes through the mind of someone who can, in one hand, be videoing, and in the other hand, reach to his 45 or whatever Glock 9 and put 3 bullets in a 37-year-old mother of 3. What kind of mind? I mean, think about it, Santita. We read about these mercenaries that go, to Afghanistan and God knows where else, and hired to kill. They're hired to do these kinds of things. And these are the type of people that they're recruiting for ICE. What are they offering them? A $50,000 bonus and who knows?
A 6-figure job.
Yeah, and pull them off of whatever military assignment they've had, and give them the gun. And it's like any military operation. You do what you're told to do, right? You do what your boss, what your commander allows you to do, tells you to do, or countenances after you do it. And so here we are. They do it in Chicago. Then they go and they kill this woman in Minneapolis. Trump and Vance and Noam get up and say what a great job they're doing. The next day they shoot someone in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell me what that means.
Well, the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota said on Thursday, quote, communities across the state have been terrorized by masked, armed agents who are indiscriminately and aggressively harassing and kidnapping individuals at school, at work, on the streets, and in their homes, houses of worship, on the street, hotels. Now, I mean, this was in RENEE Good's neighborhood. What is there a parallel? Is there a historical parallel to this?
Well, yes, there is. But before I'll get to that, I'll talk about here in Chicago, same kind of thing. But remember, not only that, but they were gassing and beating people on Halloween weekend, and they a guy in a duck costume was thrown to the ground and given a traumatic brain injury. Kids who were going to a parade were intimidated. But go back, and your father was involved in calling this out back in '82 when the 2 white police officers were killed that led to the Wilson torture cases. Oh. And they did a 5-day, quote, manhunt in the black communities of this city, west side, south side, and they kicked down doors. They dragged people out, and Burge, the torturer, the main police torturer here, was in charge of all of this, took them to the station, tortured people who they thought knew something about the case or might give up some information. Then ultimately, they tortured the 2 men that they arrested, Jackie and Andrew Wilson. And it was 5 days of terror that your dad spoke out about. And he likened it to what happened in Germany, Kristallnacht. And when they, kicked down the doors in the Jewish community and terrorized the Jewish community. So yes, there's precedent for it. Um, Here in Chicago, here in LA, there in LA, and of course going all the way back in my memory to the 80s in Chicago. And I'm sure historians could bring forth other situations in this country where law enforcement has done similar things. Um, but this is, but I don't know that it's been so coordinated across the country. I mean, they're going from uh, blue city to blue city, and
Mhm.
just on a retribution, on a crusade of retribution, on a crusade where brown people primarily are props for this retribution that is really directed politically at the leadership in these cities, in the fact that they dare to be sanctuary cities, that they dare to in any way officially resist the the, the wanton immigration illegalities that Trump and his people are visiting on our populace.
What does it say to you that ICE is on wartime recruitment? That's how they termed it.
Well, I guess it's more than symbolism that Trump changed the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and he put an absolute lunatic in charge of the Defense Department, and he put another ignorant lunatic in head of the Department of Homeland Security in Nome. Um, it just yeah, and so they they take the money away from poor people just callously, in terms of Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, you name it. And on the other hand, just open the coffers for this kind of recruitment and we haven't even touched on the racism of all of this.
Help
Uh,
me to understand. Do you see racism in this?
Of course. I mean, of course. I mean, we live in America,
Mhm.
and whenever a leader or a law enforcement agency wants to take it out on a class of people or a race of people, the first people are people of color. And in this instance, the people of color happen to be brown people rather than black people. But and you can speak to this much better than I can about our history. Our history is so fundamentally racist, white supremacist, going all the way back to the way that indigenous people were treated when white settlers first came to America. And it's here it is here. And do we need to go any farther than to Trump uh, masquerading this attack on on the immigrant communities by saying they're all criminals? That basically, painting an entire populace of brown people as criminals and drug dealers, and in the same way that our community of Chicago is the military needs to come in because it's so crime ridden, which is just just shorthand for talking about black folks and primarily in these large cities where he's so falsely claiming that there's so much crime that he has to send in the military. So yes, this whole of what's happening here is fundamentally racist and white supremacist.
What does it say to the white community? Um, what does Robin Hood's killing say to the white community? And I say that because, ironically enough, this happened in Minneapolis where George Floyd was killed. And I can't help but think of Daniela Frazier, the 17-year-old girl, black girl, who was walking with her 9-year-old cousin to the to the corner store. And when she saw George Floyd on the ground with when she was watching the encounter, she told her cousin to go into the store, do not come out until I get you. And she pulled out her phone at 17 as a child. She's a child. She was not of majority. She was not of majority age. Her lived experience told her that something bad was going to happen. That more than likely he was going to die. And Renee Good's neighbors were shocked that this happened. I'm not blaming. I'm not assigning blame to
Right.
to anyone, but the it's just it's a huge chasm between expectations and experience.
No doubt, no doubt, and it comes from generations and generations and generations of reality in terms of how various communities, particularly communities of color, have been treated in this country from time immemorial.
So what are we to do with all of this at this time? I mean, you've got your book, The Torture Machine. I understand it will come out in the spring, is it?
Yes.
Okay. I think you need to rush it and bring it out a little bit earlier because, well, because I think that there are a lot of lessons that we can take from the torture machine.
Well, the torture machine is out, but it's the conviction
The
machine.
conviction machine. I'm sorry, the conviction machine. The conviction machine. When we look at just the politics of this, I mean, I saw Mary Manuel talking about this issue today and how this should be handled, and I couldn't help but think of Laquan McDonald
Mm-hmm.
and how that was handled. Um, and I'm not going to say mishandled because that was purposeful, and it was so hurtful. Um, and I know he does not want that to be his defining moment, but it was. It was. What are we to make of all of this?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about it now for almost an hour, and
Mhm.
what
But but still, you have different people who have different takes on this. You have some people who feel that she's a domestic terrorist and that she was at fault. Um, I think that the numbers, I haven't done a poll, but most people who I know who have seen the video have been appalled by this. I've heard some conservative commentators. They've said, well, what she did was unlawful, but he should not have killed her. No one takes into account she got conflicting um, orders from ICE agents: stop, stay, stop. And then if someone's trying to pull the door of your car, I can only imagine how fearful she was. She had to be frightened to death. She and her wife were like, what is going on here? Because the way she pulled back, the way she drove her car back, it looked like she was just trying to get, okay, what do you all want me to do? I'm like, just different people. It's a Rorschach test. Different people view this differently, which is why I know I keep asking that question. But even with all that you've said, even with all that I've seen, you've seen, a lot of people have seen, a lot of people, different people see different things. Attorney Taylor.
well, that's true, and a lot of that has to do with the media and how the media spins it, and it has to it to get to this level. There has to be such a definitive video that if you show people that video, if they're unless they're just dyed in the wool fascists, it seems to me that they have to see the truth of what happened.
Mhm.
Um, and but and I certainly don't watch Fox News. I don't know if you've looked at how they're covering it, or maybe
I have.
uh, sometimes they choose not to cover things when it's too they can't really justify it. But you know, you made me think of the fact that they're saying that they're giving her conflicting orders, but you know, the law says that before you shoot somebody, law enforcement shoots somebody, you have to give them a warning.
Mm.
And they didn't even they didn't say stop your car or I'll shoot
Mm.
or anything like that. Uh, they, like you said, they were telling her to stop, to go ahead. Uh, uh, Only in her wildest dreams could she think that if somehow she didn't do exactly what they told her, that they were going to put 3 bullets in her face. I
Oh,
mean, my
I,
God.
she had the, everybody who witnessed it. They were so stunned. I think that they were prepped by George Floyd, but it's just like anything else. You never expected you well. You no one ever expects to witness anything like that. No,
No.
I mean it's just quite frankly, every video that I see is so horrifying. It's horrifying to me. It's just horrifying. So just help us to understand when is your book coming out, and help us to understand how this book can really help us at this moment, because I think that it can, because now you've got the you've got the president, the vice president, Homeland Security. We're all domestic terrorists. I mean, everybody. If you dare to speak out, you are a domestic terrorist. I'm thinking of COINTELPRO. I'm just the counterintelligence program from the FBI, where everybody was surveilled. Everyone who was seeking freedom and justice. Are there any? Is there any? Is there anything that you think we should be? That I'm not saying. I don't want to say cautious, because I don't want to inspire fear. Love you too, Mary. Love all of you. Um, what should we be on the lookout for? Because what's past is prologue. I mean, we have had COINTELPRO. I don't know if many of us learned everything from it, but there was a lot to learn. Maybe we thought we'd never see anything like this again.
Well, with COINTELPRO, it never went away. They just kind of changed the coverage of it and some of the tactics.
Mm.
Eh, but this is, I mean, COINTELPRO was secret. This is right out in the open. This, I think you can take lessons from what happened here in Chicago with regard to the Hampton case, with regard to police torture, with how not only the police acted and covered up, but how prosecutors and politicians, and that's what the second book, the Conviction Machine, is about. It's about how prosecutors and politicians were deeply involved in facilitating police torture and planning police assassination, and then in covering it up.
Do you think that could happen here?
I think it is happening here, isn't it? I mean, it's just more blatant. Uh, it's right out in the open. I mean, that's what's somewhat different about it. You got the president of the United States. I mean, in Chicago, it was the prosecutor who got up and instantly told, the big lie. Here, it's the president and his vice president getting up and telling the big lie after someone's murdered in such a way that the evidence turns out to be uncontrovertible. Um, so yeah, I think it is happening again. Perhaps not in the same exact way, but it's happening in a way that we need to call out, and for those in the populace who are not yet convinced, we have to work very hard to convince them about what is actually going on here, and that that they can't just go for the okey doke and what the Trumpian media is trying to sell.
Is there anything that you'd like to say before we go?
Well, I'd like to circle back to again to send not only my condolences but also my solidarity to not only the family of Ms. Good, but also to all of those folks in Minneapolis who went through this with George Floyd and stood up and it became an issue that reverberated across the entire country. But the George Floyd situation unfortunately receded, and all of those promises that government made were reneged upon, or most of them were. And now here we are again, and Minneapolis is a vortex as well. And we have confidence, like the people here in Chicago did, and like they did in LA, that people in Minneapolis are going to continue to be righteous and to resist this kind of police violence and encroaching fascism.
Hmm. When does your book come out? The
Um,
Connection Machine.
all right, that's right now it's scheduled for April.
Can you bring it out any earlier? It's just- I mean,
Well, we'll have to speak to to Haymarket, the
I, I'm
publisher. But
only I only say that because of what we're dealing with right now. Because you've got some of the most powerful elected officials who are telling us that we did not see what we saw and that we need to be quiet. Otherwise, we are going to be labeled domestic terrorists. And boy, that is tough. And we can survive it. And not to survive it, I think we can become stronger as a result. But how ironic this is happening in the 250th anniversary of the Republic. What does that say to you about the state of the Republic, Attorney Taylor?
we, it's all right here in front of us. There's tremendous jeopardy in terms of any semblance of democracy in this country at this point. And to the degree that this country, if you see the country being built on democracy, uh, even in light of how indigenous folks were treated and how it was built also on slavery as well. Um, if there's any hope to gather and to get the better half of what this country is about, we really need to make the 250th anniversary into something other than some kind of military event for the orange fascist who runs this country.
Hmm. Attorney G. Flint Taylor, the People's Law Office, the People's Lawyer, my hero, hero to the Jackson family, and thank God for holding up the bloodstained banner of Mark Clark and Fred Hampton. Um, Thank you for holding on and getting the truth out about them, their deaths, and more than that, their lives, all that they sought to do. Because indeed, uh, in many ways, the America that they fought for, we're on the verge of creating. More and more people are coming together, and we thank God for that. And thank you for helping to correct the narrative about who they are and their lives.
Well,
Sending you so much love today.
thank you. Right back at you.
Always.
Okay.
Attorney G. Flint Taylor, everybody. I can't wait for the book to come out. We're going to have to reach out to Haymarket Books so that they can want to release it sooner. We need that. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson.